Good question, as we're going to be heading into the draft. This is Hell's Heaven by the music. My turn to guess this time, as we are looking at our first matchup here for these two teams. Insomnia, so far in their drafts, they've been keeping it fairly simple. Twinsie and Passimo have also been synergizing incredibly well, which has always been good to see. Whereas OG, so far, as we mentioned, they're the only team to drop a map, but how moot is that considering their opponents, at least in the first round? They've shown, however, very little, despite playing more games. They've shown about the same as everyone else, leaning heavily on EMEA and Groot in most of their games, showing very little of what we can see here. But the person I want to highlight the most is Lapsis, who's been consistently staying safe and going down the least on the team and almost in the game in each of their matches, while getting the most or close to the most healing in every single game they've set up. They are the safe anchor for this team.
The beating heart. And there was a chance to actually go for a non-mirrored Mantis in the end for OG Seed, as those first bans were different. But instead, it's the Lunar Snow that's protected, and a one-sided Jeff is going to be available for Insomnia to play with. Now that we're getting to sort of like the second phase of the bans, it feels like strategists are going to be the things that are going to continue to be hit here, making sure that triple strategists can't really be something that either team can fall back on, but they're still going to try and make it work anyway.
Ultron's down on both sides. Mantis is down on both sides. Currently a one-sided Jeff. The potential for a one-sided Adam if OG want to use their last protect on that, meaning that both these teams will get one of the main triple strategist lineup characters. Insomnia, they use their protect on the EMEA, another incredible character for this map, especially on the Super Soldier Factory section, where yeeting people into the lava ocean is an extremely viable EMEA tactic.
Yeah, it seems that the grab is also just a main factor of what Emma Frost can do well when you have a lot more like dive options being used. And actually the Hulk being protected means, banned out even.
Well,
it's nice to sort of be able to try to take out what I guess Forever would do with these fastballs. And Emma Frost is going to be protected on the other side, so both teams looking to try and play around it a bit more.
There's going to be guaranteeing that they have a safe frontliner. So now Insomnia, do they want the potential any other strategists banned out? They could take out a Luna. No, Luna's already protected. Could have taken out Invisible Woman.
Bucky.
They go for Bucky, a character who could very much capitalize off of resets. Of course, crowd control, if they're planning on playing anything with a little bit more dive potential, could be extremely effective here. And there we go. Passimo going to be showing the Venom.
And it's just any form of like CC, but Invisible Woman not touched in either of the drafts for protects or bans. So yeah, the CC available to deal with Venom dives for the most part it seems to be the option for OG Seed. It's not something that they've had to worry about, but you know that with that one-sided Jeff, it feels like the best value you can get out of it is making sure that you have the Venom for the team up alongside. You can play it without, but if you can play it with, you might as well.
Yeah, capitalize. Make sure you get the maximum value out of it here. Let's see how these teams lock in what are going to be the main priorities. Line Pro getting that Luna taken away from them. They've been leaning heavily on Luna and Invisible Woman. One of them still going to be available.
It's nice to see. I don't think we've seen much Hell's Heaven. Obviously it's randomized, so it's not like it's teams that want to play it necessarily. But this always tends to give us very close domination games, and in this series it's hard to know which of Insomnia GG or OG Seed are going to be the ones heading up into the upper bracket and into playoffs. Insomnia, they had a pretty good finish in stage 1. OG Seed pretty much bottomed out, so lots of proof for both sides with different names and different faces.
Going for a 2-2-2 for OGC. Insomnia with that triple strategist, making the most of the fact that they do have that Jeff, and you already mentioned it, the symbiotic shenanigans, the team up between Jeff and Venom. It's going to give them a lot of extra protection. Frost Mountain, though, has been leaning very heavily on the Storm so far, but not as often on these domination maps. It did show up, but they're bringing it back once again to try and burst down through, and already it's paying off.
That's a lot of damage that Frost, Mountain, and Name took. Name goes down, but Frost is able to trade it out with the offensive play for Insomnia. Unfortunately, however, the numbers are still going well. I think it's actually Relaxing Sky that's getting the majority of the final hits themselves, but they've also taken control of the point first.
But OGC try and break that siege. Twitzy is on the flank, trying to keep them zoned away. Gainer on that group. We already mentioned how much priority this team will put onto Groot and Emma, but it's for a good reason. It's a very effective combo. Passimo diving in, just make sure they don't get hit by Carbon Crush, backing away. So Twitzy going to be wanting to duel Frost Mountain in these main fights, but already we're starting off with a Fate of Both Worlds to open up. Everlasting Sky forced to mirror after nearly getting burst.
Forced to take this fight a little bit more, but OGC have thrown pretty much everything that they had at it, and you still have stuff like the Omega Hurricane that's about to be involved. It's a good grab, actually, getting up to two of the enemies, two of the Vanguards spat out into the flame. It means that Insomnia are actually turning this around. Equal Ultimates dedicated, and even Frost Mountain has decided to pull out that Omega Hurricane after those Vanguards went down, and also whilst your other duelist has been taken down too.
Frost Mountain forced to flee because Twitzy pulled the perfect trigger. The Omega Hurricane was so much targeting onto their front line that they knew there was nothing defensive left. Frost Mountain, I am correcting myself from earlier, has played Storm in every single game so far. All three that OGC have played, and already with that damage boost is setting up for KQ to continue to capitalize here. But already Insomnia keeping control, 83%, building back up towards another Galactic Legend at 20%.
Now it's for Insomnia to maybe get this final blow on the first point. The Omega Hurricane, sorry, Siren Seduction is going to be used, but Pasiwo has chomped two of the teammates from a Boohoo down. There might be Boohoo for OGC on this first point, because it's not only Insomnia winning the fight, they completely stop OGC from touching that first point of the Super Soldier Factory.
A convincing hold there by Insomnia. OG just unable to find an opening. We're going to be heading to Frozen Airfield as the next setup, but already we're starting to see Insomnia GG show what they are made of. Looking at the statistics here, so far, Pasiwo, someone who's constantly diving in, and Twitzy, someone who has to dive in if they want to blast a barrage, haven't gone down yet. They're able to really rely on their strategists here.
Gotta be honest.
It says a lot that your Venom hasn't died yet, you know what I mean? Pasiwo is like free real estate to be able to deal with this. But also, Twitzy on this team has really come alive. He was very good from what we saw over on Chemistry. But just against this, with this team, you've got some experienced players in all of those kind of roles. It just seems to be the kind of environment that makes him thrive just a little bit more. He's undefeated so far when it comes to eliminations. He's looking to see if he can do a little bit more damage and make this a very MVP performance from his team for Insomnia.
Pasiwo just caught an interesting bit of geometry and was sent into orbit, but has made it still to the front line of the fight before anyone from OG Seed can reach the point. Defensive position set up by Insomnia to go to the high ground. Frost Mountain has abandoned Storm, moves over to the Star-Lord to try and take the 1-versus-1 duel, forcing Twitzy to back away after meeting the entire team.
I think both players from Insomnia that were trying to perch on the high ground have dropped down below. They haven't taken the point yet, but you have got this movement from Pasiwo that's just managed to hit across laterally, mostly keeping those players from OGC awkwardly positioned, but the Fate of Both Worlds is going to allow them to sort of waterfall down, try to contest this point, make sure that Insomnia don't get it, but it is just a case of Twitzy waiting for that ultimate to end before the Galactic Legend comes through.
Galactic Legend is going into the backline, but everyone is completely grouped up. They're not finding any finishing blows. The tanking is real. Nocta will fall on this backline as Insomnia, finally the point is picked up by OGC as Insomnia will be forced to retreat. They just did not have enough attrition this time.
Not this time. It was a good ult from Name, the Eternal Bond, and there wasn't really too much to CC them out of that Cloak and Dagger ult. And the Portal play is just going to turn him around. You have got the Jeff being used on one side, and then the Insult Inferno. It's a bit of a mess in either case, but OG Seed deal with this curveball strategy from Insomnia well enough that they still have control of the point. Insomnia is very close to taking it themselves, but this has turned into a little bit of a mess.
It's quite the brawl, to say the least, here as they try to make their way up. And OG Seed, they extended up to try and fight Insomnia and keep them in their spawn. Insomnia just teleported past them and end up still getting isolated and picked off. This is a full control right now from OG Seed, keeping us even as Abu, who is going to be moving in with the Silent Seduction, trying to lock down the retreating members of Insomnia and send them right back to their spawn again.
But you've got Insomnia like losing players and then trying to take the point. It's again 2/3 of the way of actually turning it back into their favor for the first time on this second point. It's a little bit weird for Insomnia. It just seems to be two things happening at different times and not quite lining up with each other. But Frost Mountain switching over towards the Star-Lord, trying to see if he could do a bit of a Twitzy cosplay. The rest of the team's able to clear up, and now this is getting towards 70% on this second point.
This is just dominant back and forth. Neither of these teams seems to be able to reclaim a point once the other has control. The defenses for both of them are so solid. So now it's all about, at this point, who takes first point on round 3 if we continue this theme. Or Insomnia need to actually start to pull it out and recover and make their way in, reclaim the point, which is already at 88%.
Feels a little bit like that's domination full stop. Whoever gets to point first is such a big advantage. But this is yet again Insomnia almost just clearing it for free. But this hasn't worked the last 2 times. With Passero's help, third time might be the charm.
They're able to get the double. Noctur's coming in with the It's Jeff, keeping the team topped up. Gets the double. That is massive. The damage output is there, though. Evasive maneuvers. And see ya.
Needs that like goofy like falling. I'm not even going to try and replicate it because
I'm
it's
not
just
doing
so
that.
like unique, or just a Wilhelm scream will do. That is Insomnia. It eventually worked, just going for these kind of like behind plays to take the point. But now they can't put a foot wrong if they want to take Hell's Heaven 2-0. Any fight won for OG Seed brings us to that third point.
Twitzy's on the flank, looking to try and do some damage, maybe a blast barrage through the enemy team to get back to their own. Very low ground here. Just be careful not to get caught out of OG Seed. Want to try and reclaim this point. Twitzy gets caught out. Already sent back to spawn here as Nocta keeping the team topped up. Make sure they're safe, but already OG Seed are way more grouped, making their way onto this point to try and take advantage of that first early pickup.
Now this fight is getting a little bit more interesting. Invisible Boundary feels like it's being weighted on for OGC. They have a lot to go off the back of it. But Relaxing Sky has got the fate of both worlds. Might want to hold on to it to try to get all of these ultimates out from OG Seed. But unfortunately, you've lost one of your vanguards. Now is the time to use that fate of both worlds on your side. And mostly you've sort of stemmed some of the chaos that is happening. And OG Seed survived by a whisker. Boo does eventually go down. But this fight is out in the open. There was an attempt at the Galactic Legend, but this ultimate from Forever, that Sign of Seduction, gets so much value.
But now the Eternal Bond has been burned because while Frost Mountain is down, Name knows that they have to contest this because we're approaching that 100 line throw, moves over to Strange so they can reinforce and get everyone back to the point. Same from Abuhu, portaling everyone back in. It's all on this last final fight now as Quincy takes out Frost Mountain for the second time from a bomb, dropping so much damage. Meteor is sent into the backline. Nocta gets Lapsis off the map. Twitzy in the backline is doing huge damage to Name. Able to retreat out of that damage after they get hit by the Terror Cave, which might have finished them off if they weren't careful. Need to be careful not to end up on the other side of that portal once it expires. But Frost Mountain falls for a third time in one fight as they desperately send people at the board to try and buy time. But Venom just cannot hold. They cannot maintain. And Insomnia are able to take game number 1.
Yeah, Frost Mountain didn't hear no bell, but eventually it is going to be Insomnia taking this one 2-0. A very interesting 2-0 on this Hell's Heaven first point, though. First was very straightforward and easy, frankly, from Insomnia. But that second point, we see a little bit more of a fight back from OG Seed. Things start to really come into their own. And then just those final couple of fights got really scrappy. You gotta say, though, like, it's overall just a good performance from everybody in the server to an extent. But Twitzy's going to be the poster child, I think, of this team. Really was able to just get so much done and had some really good Galactic Legends to boot.
9 final hits. Also a big shout out to Nocta. This is the player who's been traditionally for this roster, the player who plays stuff like the Jeff when it has been needed, has really brought stuff in. That way the Winter Soldier as well, sorry, has been playing the Winter Soldier traditionally, now moving on to the Jeff, and has really found their own with this, managing to get huge value for the team. That's probably the most Jeff environmental KOs we have seen so far in Stage 2.
And done in like clean fashion too. Like, it's a little bit easier on this map because like you can see just how far it is to travel. I wouldn't say that this is some crazy rollout that you need to do for Jeff to be able to get those kind of picks. But it is all about timing, finding those right engagements. And if you're able to catch both Vanguards in every instance that you've done that play, that's a lot to say about Nocta, but also the Vanguard's positioning might be just a little bit off that keeps happening.
Those Vanguards are Magneto and Emma, both of which can be immune to it. It shows Nocta's also been placing it beautifully to keep their team healed up. It's definitely one of the strongest Jeff performances I think we have seen so far. And in the meantime, like you already mentioned at the start, Twitsy's just been in the sky unleashing just clip after clip into everyone on the ground. They took a lot of those duels versus Frost, who really was started off strong on that Storm and played a really good Star-Lord, but it was just the difference of being able to take those duels more effectively with the triple strategist.
Yeah, I don't think that this is going to be a straightforward 2-0 for Insomnia, though. We still have a couple more maps potentially for a chance for OGC to claw this one back. So we're going to go for a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll see if Insomnia can move up towards the playoffs, or whether OGC are going to strike back. So don't go anywhere.
Psionic Surge! Force Burst! Disappear!
Insomnia want to make this 2 playoffs from Ignite for 2, and they're just 1 map away from potentially doing it. For OGC, it wasn't the best debut back in stage 1 in May for the squad, losing to, I'm not going to say the streamer team, but we know what Schmungus are capable of, right? In these instances, OGC have shown a lot of promise of what they've been able to do this stage, but now I think they're really under a keen test like they were yesterday.
OGC, like you said, phase 1, they did lose to Schmungus, but then they were able to take down 0%, a very strong team, so they did get themselves onto the board that way, but then lost to All Business in that lower bracket as well. A situation they prefer to avoid. They found themselves in the upper bracket, which is already further than they made last time. They just want to avoid being in that lower bracket again, because if they lose this round and next round, they end in the exact same spot. And you want to see that you've improved from series to series.
Midtown is going to be the choice actually from OGC, similar to what we saw from them yesterday, I believe. But we also saw them pull it out against Schmungus. I remember that map in particular because it was one that they actually ended up winning. It was a little bit more crazy, and like I said, the roster was a little bit different here or there. I think for them, it's more of a case of just making sure that things can get off on the right foot, and Mantis Bam's coming out instantly. You would assume that it is going to be another look at what triple strategists can offer both sides.
OGC last season, last stage, they won 3 maps total. Hall of Dejalia versus All Business. Midtown, like you say, versus 0%. And then Krakoa versus 0% as well. So being on one of the maps that you know you're doing well, of course, with multiple new players, this is OGC's time to try and make their way back in. We see Ultron taken out, one-sided Emma on the side of Insomnia.
And now both bands are going to be coming in together. You've got Luna to protect on one side, and then you've got the Emma Frost one-sided on. So yeah, I'm curious to see what the player focus is going down at this rate, whether you want to go for the duelists, and it is actually going to be Insomnia making sure the Strange isn't going to go on one side, and maybe they'll protect it here too.
We'll have to see. Plenty of options, but where is that priority? Do you want the Jeff again to make it have an equal impact? They choose Luna, keeping it one of those two big main strategists available. Luna going to be protected. Invisible Woman not yet touched by either side. OG now with the next ban, of course, the final save coming up here. Do they want to potentially lock in a one-sided Jeff? Or honestly, they can secure themselves a one-sided anything at this stage.
Just anything will do for them at this rate. I wanted to look a little bit on what some of the other bands have been coming in. It's been free for free so far for OG Seed when it comes to taking out Mantis. Ultron is also something that they're very keen on not having against them. But also the Hulk, which I don't think is something that they've actually changed too much. Whereas on the other side, it is a little bit more of a case of like the Mantis, the Ultron, Strange actually has been taken out a couple of times from Insomnia. So that isn't as unique. Both squads, in fact, wanted to make sure the portals are not on the table for this game. Insomnia going to be defending first, so I'd imagine a Rocket Raccoon might show up here, there, or everywhere.
I think you are almost certainly correct. There is, by the way, a chance of a one-sided Adam. So we could have double revive, something that we saw a little bit of on Thursday. We saw a couple teams going with the Loki Adam Warlock, and then there is a chance you could rocket that as well if you really want to maximize revives, but that's a bit of a spicier choice.
I mean, it's a good time for the spicy choices to come out, I think. Both sides, really. You know, we see some of the other teams that you sort of expect to be making playoffs, and it's a question of whether they're going to show too much or whether they're going to hold on to it, whether it's needed or not. Here, in this instance, I think both teams, if you've got something, use it now, because playoffs is a testament for both teams to be able to make. I think it's a good aspirational goal for both sides, but at the same time, playoffs is still like a couple of weeks away. Like the rest is like seeding, and then you've got playoffs pretty much the start of October for us. So there's plenty of time to work out how you want to approach things, but OG Seed pretty much going to be stuck out. I can see a triple Vanguard's going to be in play from the attacking side, and a very deep hold from Insomnia to try to match.
Let's see if they can break through this. They're, of course, starting with the Storm Moon Knight, one of the, like, 2 or 3 combos we seem to try and deal with this kind of triple Vanguard from the strategist setup. Forever, though, is absolutely melted by it. Boo-hoo is able to get the final hit there, but Forever is already back. Nocta, you called it. The Rocket Battle Rebirth Beacon. Keyword is Rebirth. Bringing them back into the fight, allowing them to keep this hold for even longer. Without the Strange being able to bring them back every second now, and every player who's kept up is even more important.
Oh, you got Hannah Khonshu too, and with all these walls, is attempted to try to break apart the attack and isolate them, but when you've got flying targets that can just get over the wall, it's not going to matter. But also, you're still losing out numbers. You know, an Amplifier feels a bit of a desperate plea to gain control of this, but Hannah Khonshu is going to send it straight back to its own form of spawn, I guess it would be.
Invisible Boundary going to be coming in, straggling present for the turnaround, trapping him against the wall. Frost Mountain picked out of the air. Sonic Seduction to go for the rest, grouping everyone, but that Eternal Bond is keeping everyone topped up. OG Seed holding the line for them. Straggling present going to be dropped to try and take out Emma. Line Pro and Twisty both falling, but Line Pro will return to the Battle Rebirth Beacon once again.
Frost Mountain able to just keep these eliminations for OG Seed swimming along, and the payload is moving. Insomnia a bit of a free fall, I think, to try to gain back some control, but you do have Passivo that is very low at the Feast of the Abyss, and might be able to hold on a little bit more, but it just seems to be one at a time these players from Insomnia dropping. This triple Vanguard, triple strategist hold, it's harder without the Strange, but it just hasn't worked out for Insomnia.
Gaina's going to be looking to move up forward, create some space, try and zone out Insomnia a little bit more. The Groots exchanging branches at each other, branching blows, pulled in with the false physics. Passive going to be causing a little bit of a distraction into the back line, but the Groot walls are blocking out a lot of the shots. Media Rem with Fade of both worlds on both sides. Mega Hurricane try and weaken them to set up for any DPS, but the healing output is just too much for both these teams. But finally, Insomnia outlast the healing, able to grab a double, triple KQ is in full retreat. Lapsus falls, they go down, and it's a full routing.
I've got your back.
Able to sort of make OG Seed reset. You have got KQ to still on that Moon Knight. They could switch off, but he has got his ultimate, so that might be enough of a reason to want to stay on. Abuhu trying to sort of go from the high ground, approach this fight from a different position, and really make sure that Nocta or any other flying characters can't get too much. But the Ensol is going to be used pretty much point blank up in the high ground, forced to dash out, and whilst he does it, he's able to get a bit of a fadeaway onto Gainer.
Nocta abandoning at least one of those strategists for a little bit of extra damage, and it is working. Able to retreat with that silent teleport to keep them up. The card is quite far forward here, and guess what? No portals, no more reinforcements. You have to make your way in on foot, and then choosing to go via the high ground. Immediately on top of the ambulance, Nocta's going to try and make sure that every step hurts.
Strangler Prison's going to be used on both sides, but Forever's the one to able to get the first pick. He's able to actually get a pick onto one of the strategists on the other side, whilst Name was pulling out the Eternal Bond to try and heal through it. So Lion Pro is able to get a couple of picks off the help of the Psionic Seduction that Twitzy was using, and this fight has gone very well for them in the end. Hand of Khonshu was used from KQ, nothing to follow up, pretty much a full team wipe for Insomnia to claim here. 20 seconds left.
Right. Yeah, only 20 seconds left, and we're not exactly used to seeing OG Seed switch up to stuff like a Venom or someone like that, or a Captain America, someone who can run in and touch the points. And the question is, what's the choice? It's gonna be Storm. They have to Omega Hurricane in order to touch the point, but that bonus health is buying them a little bit more time. Here comes that Phoenix, but the rest of the team has to step up. Storm cannot hold this alone. They've already lost KQ. Lapsus with the Fate of Both Worlds is making some space. Relaxing Sky's ultimate expires, but Twitzy has already found a second. Abu goes down with ultimate. KQ to Psylocke so they can reinforce faster to try and touch the point, but they're running out of bodies, they're running out of HP, and they're starting to get focused down. Gator is on the point though, and has made a little bit of space, but Password's able to find Name on the backline, which removes even more healing from the point. Strangling Prison finds no one, but it isolates them just long enough. Insomnia hold.
It's a crazy turnaround, I think, for Insomnia. That first part of the first point just wasn't really going their way. They were losing so many players, and buying time, sure, but it felt like OG Seed were going to make a pretty quick job of that first checkpoint. But that switch over for Nocta, I think off the Crazy Raccoon did so much of just their offensive capabilities, I guess it would be. And players like Twitzy, well, we just like play well on the Star-Lord. He's mostly a duelist player. Great performance playing onto the Vanguard in this kind of different setup. Like, he's showing a flexible side as well as a lethal one.
It worked out in their favor. They were able to get that extra damage output. They were able to land the ultimate, so they will be moving off of that now as they... Now Insomnia's time to go on the attack. OG Seed, as we come to expect, triple Vanguard, currently double Strategist, but it would be real weird to see Lapsus be the one to move off of Strategist. There we go. Invisible Woman coming out for the defense.
Before you attack. Get ready.
See what else is going to really change up. I saw Hover for the 4 before, try to think from Passivo, but when you have that option, I suppose, of the Emma Frost, you're going to work with it as much as you possibly can, and it seems that Nocta's going to be the one playing over on the Moon Knight with that spam damage, and currently 13-1.
Doing pretty solid right here. I did not know there was a Squirrel Girl plush on this map. I assume it's in one of the buildings, as we're going to be setting up for the first push out here. Of course, the Storm for the damage boost. Moon Knight coming on in. It's almost an exact mirror here.
Even margins. Twitzy is now on the Storm, so plenty of high ground. And it's sort of the same as what we just saw, like just neutral pop shot fighting, able to take out the Vanguards, and that Bureau back is the only thing to really rely on into getting back into these fights quickly. It's already used up from Frost Mountain.
Nocta already is built up on the Hand of Khonshu directly into the building where everyone is set up, but the quick retreat, OG Seed able to sidestep it. But you can afford to do that with Moon Knight because you build up ultimate so quickly here. The focus, speaking of being of stuff that is quick, Venom is able to escape. No, it's picked off on the retreat. Twitzy, Insomnia are moving so quickly.
And everybody from OG Seed wanted to go down quickly, force a reset, but you have to do it without the portal. And so this positioning from Insomnia could be really problematic for them to deal with, but also a Strangling Prison and make a Hurricane, and then almost you have a Psionic Seduction. How do OG Seed even contest this at a reasonable rate?
It's a Good question. They need to make sure they're back onto the point here. Straggling Prison, that will certainly not help. Getting caught from behind, Omega Hurricane, but Twinsie realizes that that is not going to work. Forced to return. Is dropped by Frost Mountain. That is a great use of the Psychic Spin to try and set up the Silence Seduction to zone everyone else off the point. The invisible boundary that was keeping everyone sustained as OG Seed are going in, trying to capitalize and get something onto the board, some kind of advantage. Fist of Khonshu onto the point though, is keeping everyone zoned back behind the walls, meaning the cart is getting very few bodies on it. They're catching people as they walk in one by one. Venom drops low, swinging off, forcing the Winter Soldier to have to step up, but it buys enough time for Abu. Father's made his way onto the point to try and buy every extra second. Group walls being sent up, but he's being hit by the Thorn Lash walls from Forever, keeping them isolated, meaning someone else is about to have to set up, but they can't! A beautiful straggling Prison to keep Name off the point.
I'd have to say that the main focus to highlight what Insomnia sent them to the playoffs and up into the upper bracket, it's that duo, that Vanguard line of Forever and Pasiwo. They were terrific in stage one, and they were terrific there with the eliminations and picks that they were able to get, and just they love a good scrap, they love a good brawl. It's a Saturday night, it's all right for fighting for them, and honestly, it's just this Insomnia team, even with roster changes, looking to be as coherent and well-rounded as we saw back in stage one, and they have a chance to go and maybe do a little bit more damage and have another good top 4 finish.
Nocta is 9-1 if you count it as final hits, 23-1 if you count it as full KOs. Just such an insane performance here, utilizing that Moon Knight to great effect. The pressure that Pasiwo has been offering, you said it exactly. They are playing so well. The fact that Insomnia went into stage one and they brought out Hulk, they brought out the Thing a little bit, they brought out a little bit of Ember, a little bit of Mag, but not a lot. They had like 2 or 3 plays that they really leaned to, and then they really seemed to struggle if they were forced off of that. They have cooked so much in between the seasons.
And they're also just very good at adapting in those chaotic moments themselves. Like, they were well known of just having very long overtime pushes on payload maps, where you don't really have the chance to rely on little set strategies or set plays. It's just if you have an ultimate, go out and use it if you can. So yeah, it's Insomnia sort of building upon that. I think adding in players like Twitzy gives you a lot more like offensive capabilities, sure, but also Line Pro is a more experienced strategist in your backline to help with some IGLing as and when needed. It just feels like I wasn't sure what I made of them yesterday, just because it was not really a series that I think that we saw them fully flesh themselves out a bit, fully stretch out what they're capable of. Here, OGC definitely like pushed them, and it was probably a lot closer than it looked in some cases.
OGC, they find themselves in the lower bracket again, but they still have a chance. However, congratulations Insomnia for the 2nd stage in a row, find themselves in those playoffs, and well deserved. The rough part is their opponents are going to be chopped, a team that just took down the former EMEA champions. That's going to be a tough matchup coming in for them as we begin to get ready to head into those playoffs as we move on in. Here is that Group A. You can see there, chopped, moving in with Insomnia, whereas OG Seed, they'll be playing against the winner of Foxhound versus Paradox.
It's tough, I suppose, for both sides, but it's also like going through the losers bracket. Like, if OG Seed, okay, you go up against Foxhound or Paradox, you win that, you probably have a strong chance of facing up against Citadel to try to get to the lower bracket finals, but you would have made playoffs at that rate. So it is a bit more of like a set game. You get to watch that match tomorrow as well, and then you've got a couple more days to prep before. I imagine those games will be on Thursday, right? So we'll be keeping an eye on them for those too. It's it's great for Insomnia. I think like this game was the one that, like, from watching it yesterday, it just felt that both the series that these teams won in their games yesterday felt just very different. So it was hard to know what it was going to be like once they actually met in the server. And Insomnia, I think it was just that experience helped them out a lot.
It really did. They've changed so much. They've really grown. They've shown that experience coming in here. The new players seem to be fitting in beautifully. We keep talking about Twitzy. They have actually just locked in so hard. It's very familiar to what we did talk about before with the Forever, Pasiwo, and Demon combo. It's just like they've slipped in as if nothing's different, and they're just bringing even more different heroes to play with stuff like the Star-Lord.
Yeah, it's hopefully we'll be able to hear from them a little bit. Like Line Pro gave us a good interview yesterday, and it sounded like as well that Line Pro wasn't really intending on playing. He was just good to be a substitute, but he's an invisible woman strategist. Like that's his character that he wants to be on, and it's a very good character as of right now, and also just very good to manipulate the battlefield outside of just being ultimate spam from strategists, hoping for the best to keep people alive. There's a lot of stuff that you could do, and yeah, honestly, I feel like this Insomnia squad, it's going to be tricky, I think, to be broaching top 4 or certainly a top 3 spot to be making it to the grand finals later this year. But you never know because they looked improved and they did a lot of damage last time.
They really do. They just look better and better every time we see them. It's what we keep saying about teams like Alcancia, and already making it this far, you've got the playoffs, which means no matter what, even if you get knocked all the way to the lower bracket and lose every game from now on, you get a whole bracket reset going in later on. So they have so many opportunities now to just keep learning, improving, and just continue to grow as a roster. And, well, maybe earn that 3rd, 2nd, or even 1st spot heading into this global finals coming up sometime in the future.
Yeah, it's not really too much else, I think, to say about Insomnia realistically. I think you could also talk a little bit about, like, those convoy game modes. It seems to be like a first one going. But we actually have a very interesting interview. I guess all of the other players, other than Line Pro, didn't want to do it. So we've actually got somebody that not only is very involved in the Insomnia team, but also just involved in the scene full stop. So Minty, pleasure to see you here. Finally nice to talk to you for the first time. I wonder, from your perspective, what was this series like for you? Were you stressed about it with OG Seed, or did you feel like you had this one in the bag?
This was, look, we didn't even expect to play OG Seed, if I'm completely honest. All of our scouting and everything thought was favoured towards Foot. We thought Foot Esports were the strongest team going into it until we got to this point. And so when we found out yesterday that we were playing OG Seed, it was mixed emotions, right? We were very, very happy because, oh my goodness, the team we thought we couldn't beat, we're not playing against. But also, oh my gosh, these guys beat the team we thought we couldn't beat. What's going on? Yeah. So we were, OG was, we would rather, I think on paper we'd rather face OG than Foot, given our history with Foot Esports. But OG are a very respectable team. We weren't super confident we were going to win, but we played really well today. I'm so proud of my team. Can I say one thing, if that's okay? This time, you know me, Ryan. This time, like a few months ago in stage 1, I was with 0%, and we played against OG Seed on Midtown for our elimination game in lower bracket. We played against OGC, the team we played against today, with Frost Mountain and Name, who are now on that team on 0%. And we got knocked out on Midtown. Today, Midtown, with an old 0% member, with Line Pro on our team, against 2 old 0% members now playing for OGC, the team that knocked us out. We knock them down and we make it to playoffs. I could not be happier. What a full circle moment. Poetic
justice, yeah. I bet Line Pro was like shaking like a pooping dog going into this map, though, to be fair, like with all that stuff going on. But yeah, Techo, what would you want to ask off the back of that?
Well, for starters, just like you said, you weren't feeling confident if it was against Foot, but now, like you said, you have beaten the team that beat Foot, and you've also made your way into the playoffs. Is that at least the confidence boost you think you need?
So, for people who don't know, like, because we've got a lot of viewers, people who don't know the scene so well, our scrim results haven't been amazing. Insomnia is not a team that does super well in scrims all the time. We go into scrims, we find a lot of mistakes, and we talk about them, and we identify things, and a lot of the best teams don't even scrim us. They refuse to scrim us because we don't play so well in scrims. Then officials come around, and we're undefeated. And the teams that all these teams want to scrim, I know that Blaney's watching this. VP, I know are scrimming Foot Esports a lot. They won't scrim with us. Yes, here we are. We're in playoffs. We're 2-0. So I don't know. What I'm saying is Blaney hit my DMs and let's book some scrims, please.
Amazing.
So yeah,
I did have a question.
I mean, definitely a confidence boost. Yeah.
For sure. With this team, because you weren't with Insomnia beforehand, what from like all of the moving parts, right? Because you've got some of the main core players that are still on that roster. You've got people like Twitzy and stuff coming in, and obviously Line Pro. Like, what has been like the catalyst that has allowed this team to do so well in these officials, right? Like, is it like Twitzy? We sort of knew him a little bit from seeing him in MRC, and he looked like a bright prospect, but he looked very comfortable and very flexible there. Line Pro, we know he can sort of IGL if needed. Sometimes that didn't work on previous teams. now? Has he found his voice and his position? Like, what has been the player or the duo, the combo that seems to have really allowed you guys to do as well as you have?
There's not one. There's, to be really short, there's not one. Everyone on this team has stepped up. Everyone has gone from zero to hero. Not to say that they were all losers before, they weren't. My team is made of we have 8 of the best players in the world on our team. We have people who are in top 500 every season. We have people who are really impressive. Not everyone's super well known. Before I joined Insomnia, I'll be really honest, I didn't really know much about Nocta. I didn't know much about Pashuo. I knew Forever from Overwatch, but these aren't players that I really knew. Relaxing Sky I'd seen once or twice on 1 or 2 teams. I didn't know these guys. These guys are my best friends, they're my family. I would do anything for these people. When I was down and I had 3 teams that I was with when they qualified for Ignite last season. Between them, they won 1 map. They all went between 16 to 13. They did terribly. These guys, they picked me up. They worked with me, and every single one of them has made themselves and has made me so happy and proud. And I couldn't ask for more from them. In terms of to answer your question, I suppose more specifically, what specifically has made us stronger? We very recently made Lime Pro a starter. We have been playing with a player called Slime, who's very good, and it's a shame that we haven't been able to play him so far. He's moving house today, so I hope he's okay. We play him with Lime Pro, and he's amazing. And his knowledge, particularly from playing in Boga Bash, has meant that we have a real insight into the drafting process for this competition. But other teams just haven't had. And so I feel like a lot of the games today, we won on draft. The game today, I think we kind of... Gameplay was obviously we played very well and we could have lost it. I think our draft was better. And I think that the main person we can attribute this to is Islam Bruce, our IGL, who was leading draft today. But also a lot of the scouting work that our analyst Aria did. She's been absolutely amazing, especially in preparing us for this game. She's staying up all night. We did all our prep work on foot again, stayed up all night to go and make sure we were ready for this. So we literally, right now, if it wasn't for her, I think we'd be in losers bracket. So we owe her a lot.
You aren't, however, in the losers bracket. You are in the upper bracket. So the final question, let's give it. You get one thing to say to Chopped before you guys are going to be playing up against them later. What do you have to say to them?
Those guys are like some of my best friends in the scene. So I have nothing bad to say. I like all of these guys. The player Mash is someone I'd really consider like a good friend of mine. I really like him. I have a lot of respect for him. Vertigo is a very, very good player. Most of Insomnia is Polish, if you don't know. Vertigo is also Polish. So I guess there's probably a joke there. I don't know. But they've got probably the player that I think is one of the probably the best DPS player in Europe currently, Tuzi on their team. I think he's probably the best player in his role right now, for the region at least. I think they're a really incredible team. I think Insomnia's recently really stepped up, and I think we're really showing that in these last few matches. So I hope we have a really good game with them. I hope we give them a challenge, and I hope, regardless of the outcome, I hope we can just have a really fun time. And regardless of the outcome, only love to those guys.
It'll be cinema.
It will be. Well, thank you very much for joining us. Minty will let you go celebrate with your team, continuing on making it into playoffs. Once again, congratulations and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. This is a dream come true.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, we have, for starters, what a delightful person, love that. But
yeah, I love that Blaney got called out though. Of all the people, the nicest team manager for Virtus Pro, and he's catching strays and nobody else is.
Well, we have one more